where the filter, oh no. Welcome back to Gloved Up Garage, and welcome to more maintenance on my daily driver. This is a 2003 Lincoln Town Car. This car has 170,000 miles on it and is still going strong. I believe the original engine and trans, but I need to do some maintenance. I posted a video last month about the issue I was having with the alternator with the car. The original alternator threw a battery light and was also charging just a little low, like in the mid 13s. It should be up around 14.5 volts when it's charging. And I purchased a brand new alternator, aftermarket alternator from Rock Auto. Put that on the car, immediately got a charge light. It did eliminate the squeaking that I was getting from the original alternator, but then with the battery light, it doesn't do me any good. So they have since exchanged that alternator, and I'm gonna put that on the car today. I went ahead and pulled it up on ramps. I need to do an oil change on the car. It's been about 6,000 miles. A little overdue, but with the weather and everything we had going on, I just didn't have time to get to it. So now I've got some time. I'm gonna do the oil change on it, put that alternator on. I'm also gonna just go through some basic maintenance on the car just to kind of show you guys on these Panther platforms where the fluids are if you're not familiar, what they should look like, and what to look for when you're doing, just a basic oil change. So I'm gonna pop the hood, grab some gloves, get to work. All right, first things first, I'm going after that alternator because curiosity is killing me. Unfortunately, now I'm outside of the time that I can exchange the alternator. So if this one is bad, I'm stuck with it. Really simple. I'm gonna go for the battery first. We're gonna disconnect that positive cable just because that is the one that leads over to the battery. It is tied into the cable that goes to the power distribution box. Plug is off, and this boot that goes over the power wires is usually a little difficult to get around, so I'm gonna grab a tool. I'm gonna bring you guys in. All right, this little boot needs to come off of here so I can access that wire. This is the main power wire that gets the power from the alternator, sends it to the battery. It's good to know that boot is still in good shape. All right, that is peeled back enough. I don't remember which way this goes. I'm sure I could probably play back the video and figure it out, but I'm kind of on a roll. I don't want to stop. All right, that is snapped in there. Let's see which way this thing rotates. All right, it's the opposite way. Or the opposite of the opposite way. Now that the belt is off, I can zip out the 4 bolts, hold on the accessory bracket. Man, I don't know who put these on last, but they use way too much power. Oh yeah, it was me that did this last. All right. We didn't need that in the way either. We'll pick it up off the floor and I'll actually remember to hook it up this time. The last time I forgot to put the belt back on. That bolt just gets loosened. And that one's loose. All right. There is our stock alternator out of the way. We'll see what this does. Just like the first one, we got a dyno sheet that shows us how awesome this alternator is. I put out 165 amps, 14 volts even. Seems a little low. That should be interesting to see if it throws a battery light. Says that it's within specs of the indicator lamp circuit and the voltage sense. So we'll find out. I'll definitely be the first to know if it still throws a light. All right. Well, that's the easy part. Now I'm just going to hand start these bolts that hold the bracket on. I just want to make sure that I'm getting everything kind of squared up. Without dropping the bolt into the valley of the engine where it will never be seen again. These 2 valves have a super deep valley. So if you drop a bolt down there, you might as well just go ahead and go buy another bolt, because you're not going to find it without pulling the intake manifold. All right, I'm going to tighten the bottom bolts first because they kind of snug it to the block. Then we'll tackle this in like an X pattern. right. I'm just going to put a final torque on these. All right. Other than our belt, which I need to pick up the tool from under the car. That is done. We'll hook our battery back up, start the car, and see what awaits us here. I'm hoping that I do not get a battery light. All right, everything's clear, nothing in the way. This plug's plugged, that's plugged. Our battery's hooked up. Let's start it, see what we got. I let this run long enough to see if that battery light would trip. It did not. So I believe the new alternator has fixed the problem. So we're going to move on to the oil change portion. On the Panther platform, especially these 2-valve engines, like what's in the Grand Marquis, the Town Car, and the Crown Vic, the oil fill cap is right there on the passenger side. The oil filter, however, is down here below. It's not easy to get to. There's a lot of hoses in the way. And if your motor mounts are starting to give up, it puts the oil filter closer to the cradle, the subframe cradle, than it normally would be. So I'm gonna try to find a good position to put the camera so that you guys can see me get to that oil filter and to the oil drain. I'm gonna grab some safety glasses, my creeper, and an oil pan and slide up under this thing and get the oil drained. Now, one of the things that I like to do before I drain it, just as like a visual reminder that there is no oil in the car, I pull the dipstick out and I'm gonna take the cap off of the oil fill. First, I'm gonna wipe the dipstick off so I don't get oil everywhere in the engine bay. And then my cap is off too. So 2 visual reminders that, hey, dummy, there's no oil in the car until I put the oil back in the car, and then I'll put the cap back on. But just to make sure nothing gets in there, I'll stick that rag in there too. Another visual indicator that ain't no oil in it. All right, once you got your car up on ramps and it's well supported, we're gonna go after the drain plug on the oil pan, which is right here. See if I can move that light around, give you guys a little better view. So on my car in particular, it's a 16 millimeter. Now, if your car's ever had that replaced, it may be a different size. It's possible that the original got stripped out at some point. And I like to get it loose, but I'm gonna have to move the pan over because the oil is actually gonna shoot out like that. And it actually looks pretty clean still. For having about 6,000 miles on it, that's not terrible. And the threads are really tight on this pan. Normally it would come right out of there. All right, once you get it to the end, just kind of hold it there and boom. And on my pan, there's actually a little tray here to put the plug in. I need to find my rag that I thought I brought under here with me. There it is. I'm just trying to not get oil everywhere. And hopefully I didn't completely block the camera, so you guys had a pretty good view of that. So we're gonna let that drain with the cap open up there, and of course the dipstick out. It should drain pretty fast. Right up here above you guys is the filter, and I'm gonna let this drain. I'll put the plug back in, clean up around the drain, and then come up here to grab the filter. And I'll show you how I'm gonna get to that and the tool I'm gonna use. Now, I used to have a very specific socket that went over the Ford oil filters, and unfortunately that thing has walked away or got thrown away or whatever. So I'm just gonna use an oil filter wrench, which not really my preferred method, but it will work because when I put the filter back on, I don't torque these things down like crazy. So we got a pretty small stream of oil coming out of the pan. I'm not one to really wait for every last drop, especially with it being as clean as it is. This oil is not super dirty. So we're just gonna go ahead and call it with that. It's, you know, if there's like a little teeny tiny bit of oil in there, it'll be okay. There we go. I always start these by hand just to make sure I don't get them cross-threaded, because that will make for a heck of a time on the next guy that has to do this. And if it happens to be you, well, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. The technical torque spec for that drain plug in German is good and tight, which that is that spec exactly. It's good and tight. So now we're going to move on to the oil filter. So now that we're ready to get the oil filter off, I'm going to pull the pan forward, because you're about to find out the funnest part of doing an oil change on the Panther platform that does not have a deflector shield right here. Ford actually figured out that they were getting a lot of complaints about oil leaks that were not valid, because the oil filter was draining onto the steering rack and onto the subframe, and then dropping oil pretty much consistently after an oil change. They engineered a shield to go on these power steering lines right here, and basically create a catch that would then run the oil down to a pan. Well, those are long discontinued, very hard to find. The next time, or pretty much every time I go to a junkyard, I try to find one of those on a Crown Vic or a town car or something that's had it put on there. So I'm just using a pair of oil filter pliers. And I might grab the end of the filter here and see if I can't spin this thing off. The problem is there's power steering hose in the way, and then like a power steering cooler line in the way. And that's why the filter wrench or socket is much easier than, there we go. Good thing I didn't put it on tight. And here we go. the funnest part about this is fishing the filter out of this hole because there's so much stuff in the way. Thanks, sir. You can slightly bend some of these hoses out of your way. And there we go. So what I'll do is I'm gonna grab some paper towels, try to clean up as much of that stuff as I can, that old oil, and especially where the oil filter attaches to the oil filter, or to the lower radiator hose, cooler adapter, whatever you want to call it. Try to clean up all of that. You want to start from the top down because I'm going to start spraying brake clean to get all this old oil out of my way. All right, now I need something to put this on. Where'd my rag go? And I can't tell. All right, I think that was just from us touching that. There's like 2 drops of oil on the bottom side of the lower radiator hose adapter. I don't see where it ran down to it anywhere. The filter, oh no! Well, that was wild. I had the camera, my phone, on a gimbal under the car. One of the DJI Mimos, I think is what it's called. I didn't realize that it had turned and it was facing the lower radiator hose at that bottom clip. And those things are not the most stable, we'll say. And what happened was, apparently while I was reaching under there, my elbow bumped it. It fell over into the oil pan. So I spent the last half an hour cleaning my phone. I don't know if my DJI mic adapter that I had plugged into the phone is going to survive. It's got a ton of oil pouring out of it still, even after spraying it with an electrical cleaner and all kinds of stuff. So this is a side of car content that people don't tell you about. When you break a piece of equipment like this, it's comes out of your own pocket. So I'm going to get under here with a can of brake cleaner and continue on cleaning up around the oil filter. I will try my best to get you guys some footage under there, but unfortunately I've had a piece of equipment fail that I was kind of relying on. So I think what I can do is the tripod that phone is on right now, I can kind of get it to go over top of the engine and you'll be able to look down on me while I'm cleaning that area up. But essentially just going to spray that with brake clean, get my new oil filter out, put a little bit of oil on the ring, a little bit of oil in the filter, and come up through that same hole that I got the filter out of and quickly spin it onto the block, clean up any oil, and then I'll come back topside and put some oil in the car. Technical difficulties at its finest, and it's just one of those things that when you're doing content like this, stuff happens. So we will rebuild. I don't know if it's a blessing or not, because I really haven't been able to use that mic very much. The adapter I got for Christmas, and I just saw like a couple weeks ago, DJI has a smaller version that came out that pairs with both mics. And I thought, well, that would be kind of cool. It's smaller. It makes the camera, the phone, everything a little smaller, a little easier to use. So I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but we might be ordering that if the other one doesn't survive. So I'm going to move you guys around, get back to work. Right down there is where that oil filter goes, and you'll be able to see me clean that up when I get down there. Grab my safety glasses, grab what's left of this can of brake clean after cleaning up my phone. Lucky for me, the last time that I did this oil change, I cleaned a majority of the stuff that was down here. So pretty much the only thing that's here is what I've made a mess of changing the oil today. Luckily, there's like a little pocket that sits down here on this K member that collects oil. So no matter how much you spray with brake cleaner, there's always going to be a little bit of oil there. And again, that's one of the reasons they designed that shield, was to direct oil away from that area. If you jam enough rags in there, you can eventually get it clean. All right, I'm gonna wipe off where the oil filter goes. Clean up some of the other drippings around it. I'm gonna call that pretty much good. I don't think we're gonna get much cleaner than that. This is where one of those things that I do that may or may not be recommended by Ford, I'm not sure. With regards to the oil on a modular engine, the urban legend has always been that Ford used 5W20 to help increase fuel mileage. But if you use 5W30, you get better results, better longevity. It makes the engine last a little longer. I typically use 5W30 on the 2-valve and the 4-valve engines. I've not had any issues out of these engines ever since I switched to 5W30. The loss in miles per gallon is nominal. I typically see around 18 or 19 with this car. I can't really say that it would be worth it to me to bump that up to 20 or so by going with thinner oil. Just knowing my driving style and our weather here in Kentucky, I don't think it would be a good idea. So I'm going to use 5W30. I'm going to pour a little bit of oil into the filter, just a touch. Hopefully we don't experience another Exxon Valdez moment. All right, there we go. And then I'll put the rest in the pan when I'm done putting this filter on, but I mainly wanted to get a little bit of oil up here on that, down onto the threads and the return. All right. Probably gonna make a mess under the car putting the new filter on. So I'll move you guys back over and you all can watch me struggle with that. Alright, that went on pretty smooth other than the outside of the filter is now completely covered in oil. And again, you don't want to over tighten that, which is impossible because it's covered in oil, so I can't even get a really good grip on it. All right, that filter's tight. You just want it hand tight. That's where I've got it. I'm going to clean all of the oil that I spilled outside the filter, everywhere else around it, so that it doesn't look like I've got a massive oil leak and I put myself in some sort of panic later on. With everything under the car done, all that's left is to fill up the oil, what's left of our jug, which I barely put maybe 8 or so ounces in there. I can normally fill this up without a funnel, but hey, I've made enough messes for one day. So I'm just gonna use a funnel so that I don't make any more. It's just a slow process of letting this thing fill up. You don't want the funnel to fill all the way up where it spills over the funnel. It's got to drain down to the bottom of the motor. This is very fun, watching the oil pour in here. So these jugs that of the Ford oil are 5 quarts, which is the recommended amount of oil for the 4.6. I usually go ahead and fill it all the way up. It'll actually be a little overfilled. But once we start it up and get that oil circulating, it'll probably be just a smidge on the high side, which is okay. So, visual indicator, it's got oil in it. I'm gonna turn around because that absolutely annoys me. There we go. Now we can read that from that side. I'm gonna put the dipstick in just to double check that we're at the right level, even though I know we're gonna be a touch on the high side. We'll give that kind of a minute to drain down in there too. One thing to check, power steering fluid is right here. There's a level indicator on the side. That is good. I can see my coolant reservoir, which is right here. The indicator is over on the other side, but over here I can see that there's coolant in it. The last thing we're gonna do is fill up the washer fluid reservoir and then check our trans fluid. Car needs to be warm and running, checking the trans fluid, so I wanted to get the oil change done first, and then we'll cut to that. So there we go. Our oil level is right there in the middle, kind of towards the high side, but we're right in the hash marks on the dipstick. We're good to go. We can top off the washer fluid and then start this thing up and let it run. So washer fluid over on the Lincoln Town Car is back here in the back. I think in the Crown Vic, it sits a little different. The reservoir looks different. And we'll just fill this thing up. We'll see how much of a mess I can make with the washer reservoir, because now my funnel is dirty. All the way to the top. Wouldn't you know it, I didn't spill anything that time. Sometimes it'd be like that. All right, I'm gonna put my beauty cover back on because I had that off in order to change out the alternator. I knew that the new alternator was gonna be coming, and I didn't want to put that cover back on knowing I was gonna have to take it back off again. So this thing locates up here on these tabs, and there's 2 slots in the front of the cover. Mine happens to be broken already, probably from somebody else when they changed the intake manifold on this car. And then there's like a 1/4-inch drive nut thing. And it rattles around, makes a bunch of noise while you're driving. I'm gonna pick up all the tools, start this thing up, check oil pressure, and then we'll let it get warm and check trans fluid. All right, we are up to temp. The fan just kicked on, so I know it's nice and warm. I'm gonna check my trans fluid, which is really easy. The dipstick is back here. Trans fluid is kind of flammable, so you definitely don't want to drop it on the exhaust. Looks like the level's good, the color, it's got a little red to it. Starting to look a little brown, which, I mean, it's gonna be a little brown because the car's got 170,000 miles on it. All right. Do our final check here. Fluid is pretty much up here to the top. Again, little reddish brown tint to it. Not perfect, but not terrible. We're good to go there. We've done the oil change. We've checked our trans fluid. We've checked our coolant. We checked our power steering. Brake fluid, I can see from here, is in good shape. We're up at the top. We topped off our washer fluid. That is basic maintenance 101 on a Panther platform vehicle. So that pretty much covers all of our maintenance on this Panther platform. We've checked all of our fluids. We've checked our belt, our hoses, all of that stuff. We are good to go for another 5,000 miles. Now, obviously, I'm going to check the oil a little sooner than that, just knowing these vehicles and how they tend to burn a little bit of oil between oil changes. Typically, a quart or so with this amount of miles is normal. So I do check the oil periodically a lot more than I probably should, but I'm nervous about this being my daily driver and being as old as it is. If this is the kind of thing that you like to watch, people working on these Panther platform vehicles, trying to wring every last mile that we can out of these cars, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell icon next to it to be notified when I upload new videos. I definitely appreciate each and everyone's support. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay gloved up.